I think we can both agree that whether or not there is vote fraud, what amount it occurs in, has been something where there are smart, good people on both sides of the disagreement. And I think that
no, I don't accept that as a premise. This is not a 50-50 proposition where maybe it's 3 million, maybe it isn't. There are no numbers anywhere like that coming from anywhere that deserves respect except the president's mouth. He owned this as an explanation for the popular vote results. And other than that, we know the studies. You know them. They've been cited to you many times. You can't substantiate the allegation with anything other than the president's own words.
Actually, I can substantiate the allegations and the actual occurrence of vote fraud in Missouri. And the funny thing is that in the studies, studies you cite, none of them include these vote fraud occurrences that happen in the state of Missouri, which right there points to a problem. But I think the bigger thing is...
But at your strongest reckoning, Secretary of State, you have a handful of cases. You can't make this a problem of any specific dimension or scope. You don't have the cases. You don't have the proof. I'm not saying you don't have any cases. I'm not saying you don't have a problem. We all know every state has problems. There's almost zero chance that our votes are accurate. But it's not a widespread problem. It's not something that you're dealing with on a major scale. Isn't that just the truth?
Well, I'm glad that you agreed that, yes, we do have vote fraud and that none of the vote totals are completely accurate. I think that's an improvement. But what I would say is, if like you believe that vote fraud isn't a massive thing, it doesn't change elections, shouldn't you want there to be an investigation by a bipartisan commission like this with full information? Because if the data shows that, you can stand up and say, I was right. And I would think that Republicans would like to have a bipartisan investigation with all the information. Why don't we do this well and put this to rest? Either we have a problem with it or we don't. Let's find out. If we have a problem, let's work to solve it. If we don't, let's move on to other problems.
It's just so ripe for being misleading. And obviously the goal would be 100% accuracy, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's what you would be talking about as the ultimate goal. We're not there yet. But look, let's just deal with it as a problem on its face. How many cases have you seen brought to a point of conviction that deal with voter fraud in your state?
Well, you see right there, one of the problems we have is getting convictions.
Yeah, I know, because you don't have good cases. That's what they say in the study.
True either,
you only have a handful of convictions,
sir,
because once you go all the way through the process, they fall away. That's
Actually, they don't. I mean, the most recent case I would cite that goes directly against what you're saying is we had an individual that tried to vote 2 ballots. They put 2 ballots into the voting box. They signed an affidavit that admitted they had done it, but then they got to the witness stand and said, you know, I have these prior problems. I have these difficulties in life. And the jurors said, you know, we don't want to convict this person. They did it. We know they did it. We can prove it. And then when you talk about in-person vote fraud or voter impersonation, if you will, we have the evidence. We have the signed poll book that doesn't match. We have the signed registration card.
It's just a number of cases. No. Obviously, you want to aspire to be better. Look, when the president made an issue and the White House then came out and said, or his campaign team at the time, and said, you know, a lot of people are registered in 2 different places. He had staffers who were registered in 2 different places. You know, this is the concern is that, are you just chasing after something to validate a myth, or you're actually going to make the system better?